You got into the safety business because you wanted to protect people, but somewhere along the way, the job started controlling your time, your schedule, your priorities, even your income potential. What if the expertise you've built over the years in the field can give you something more? More freedom, more control, more ownership of your future. I'm Sheldon Primus, the author of 7 Steps to Starting a Profitable Safety Consulting Business and the host of the Safety Consultant Podcast, with more than 350 episodes helping safety professionals become consultants and grow their career. Consulting changed my life. In fact, I'm a full-time RVer, and one consulting contract paid for my home I live in today. Now, I help safety professionals build their own consulting practice through bi-weekly coaching calls, accountability, and personal guidance. But this program isn't for everyone. Start with the Consultant Readiness Audit at sheldon.coach.
What if everything we thought we knew about safety was just interference? From the host of the Rated R Safety Show and the founder of Safety FM comes the complete Signal Transmission Trilogy, now available in one powerful edition. Safety, in my opinion, the book that started the conversation. Safety Mutation, where the boundaries of culture, systems, and belief begin to break. And now, Safety Transmission, the final piece of the signal. For the first time, all 3 books are together in one volume. The Signal Transmission Trilogy, Complete Edition. This isn't just about compliance. It's about consciousness. It's about decoding the way we think, lead, and live, inside and outside the system. Whether you've been following the signal since the beginning or you're just now tuning in, this is the version to own. Search Signal Trilogy on Amazon or visit safetyfm.com to get your copy now.
This is Andy.
And this is Matt.
And you're listening to
The Hot Podcast with no name.
What a dumb name.
It's so stupid. All right, episode 62.
Episode 62.
I do feel bad about starting with all right, but
We will start over.
No. We're in it. We don't do second takes. This is all one shot.
It's always the first take, and it's always just as bad as however it's going to be. And can we just for a moment call out your mustache?
We can. I guess I'm not responding with a lot of pride, so I don't even know if we need to call it out any further because I think I'm doing enough in my general tone in speaking about it. But if there's something you really needed to say.
No, I have nothing to say about it, apart from the fact that recently when we asked if we looked similar to how people imagined us, folks that have just listened to the podcast and haven't met us before, the only call out was your mustache. And
it wasn't
we should mention it so people know, so they can picture it now.
Yeah. Well, this is going to be a great episode. I'm very excited already, clearly. So we are continuing our trend of you arguing against yourself. We did get a couple of very nice notes, supportive notes, saying that this has been helpful. I think people feel like they get these in these sort of debates or arguments themselves pretty often, and they are enjoying getting to hear both sides being argued.
Yes.
So we'll continue.
We'll keep doing it.
Yeah.
What are we on to? What topic? Is this the third topic?
This is the third topic.
Rebuttaling myself on.
And I did incorrectly say there was 5 at the end of last episode. There's only 4. So we have this episode and one more. We've already done the root cause argument. We've already done the accountability argument. Mm-hmm. And we are now on to one that is always and deservingly a hot button issue in most conversations, which is cardinal rules. Here's what you said a couple episodes ago when you were arguing against HOP, which was that cardinal rules need zero tolerance. Safety isn't optional. It's a very important piece that you said. You argue that cardinal rules exist for a reason. They're to protect life. If people violate them, that's a serious risk to safety. Giving people space to explain, that was a quote, space to explain, after breaking a life-critical rule can feel like making excuses for dangerous behavior. And for organizations with high hazards, this flexible approach is a luxury they can't afford. And here's a direct quote from you. If people can't follow cardinal rules, they shouldn't be working for the organization.
Nice.
So that was what you said.
That was me arguing against Hop on the topic of cardinal rules. Yeah.
And the summary was the critique reflects the tension between learning and line drawing, especially in industries where consequences of non-compliance can be fatal.
Yeah. Yep.
And we just had this conversation with a group of leaders yesterday.
We did just yesterday. Yeah. Okay. So I think if I have to argue against myself,
you do
against
that's
Top,
just to be
which
clear,
I do. That's the whole premise. It's still the whole premise of what we're doing here. I mean, I think the first thing in any good argument is you acknowledge the pieces that are common between the two sides of the argument. So the piece that we should always acknowledge is that whether we're talking about this from a sort of more traditional non-hop mindset or a hop mindset, the goal is the same, right? The goal is the fact that, hey, we really, really, really want to make sure that people go home to their families and that there aren't catastrophic failures. And the argument itself is actually the methodology of how to get to that end, not that end is important. And I think that there's a lot of emotion around things like life-saving rules, critical rules, cardinal rules, whatever terminology is used, because the stakes are so high. And it can feel like in the middle of the argument that the other person doesn't care as much, meaning can't they see that their approach isn't going to work and therefore people are going to die? And so then there's a lot of feelings of anger and frustration, and then that works its way into the conversation. So acknowledging that we are trying to accomplish the same thing becomes incredibly important. And then the piece of the argument, there's a bunch of different pieces of it, but ultimately, the argument itself is provable, meaning we can prove it to ourselves in this hop space, which I'm going to explain what that means, of why we would want to do a different approach. But the base of the argument is the base of this thought process in this hop space. First, it's the acknowledgement of why we have cardinal rules. We have cardinal rules within organizations because those are the most critical places in which the chance of something going catastrophically wrong is incredibly high. And oftentimes those are the places where our ability to control for that is quite low, meaning that usually the only thing between something terrible happening and sort of the variability of life and work, the only thing between that is oftentimes a rule, an administrative rule of some sort, because we don't have a better way to mitigate for the consequence of something going wrong. Or in order to even set up the mitigation itself, you have to take a bunch of actions to make sure that the mitigation works, right? And that's where all these cardinal rules come from. So it's this idea that we need to be able to have protection in these places. But what's amazing about cardinal rules is it actually points to some of the most important places in our organization to be curious about. So if we step back and we recognize these are some of the most high consequence areas, and oftentimes in these places, the ability to control for that can be quite brittle. And that's why we have so much energy and emphasis around this rule. Well, then we layer on top of that the acknowledgement that any rule, and I would challenge all of us to think about literally any rule that we have been exposed to in our entire life, whether it be within an organization or personal life, it doesn't matter. Any rule at all, any sort of overarching statement of this is how you should handle this situation, I would argue they all have exceptions. I actually can't think of a rule that doesn't have an exception. Why that becomes incredibly important is because in the variability of work, in real life, the rules that we've laid out as this, thou shalt do this at all times, every time, no time, there's no exceptions to it. Thou shalt do this. That is a weird utopia that doesn't exist. Meaning the belief system that we could have this overarching rule that could apply, does apply, and works in every single situation that we've outlined the rule should be used is a scary oversimplification of what's actually happening. Which means that today, in every organization we've had the honor of spending time with, the cardinal rules that are out there saying, hey, these are the ones that we follow. There's no exception to these rules. This is how you must follow these in order for you to be able to work here. Like that type of cardinal rule sort of layout in every single place that we've been able to have this discussion with, there are currently people not following those rules for very good reason. Meaning for reasons of, hey, it doesn't apply well, it doesn't make sense here, you physically can't do it here, I have to do these two other competing things that make this rule not work. It is happening today, right now.
I think there's I'm just gonna pause you right there for
please.
Two things. One rule that doesn't have exceptions that you can't wear white after Labor Day. That's obviously no one should ever make that fashion faux pas. The other is that there are people who break these life-saving rules, cardinal rules. Every time we hear someone talk about it, they are characterized as bad people, malicious people who choose,
who don't care,
break,
who choose,
these rules. And the way you just described it was not that. And I just think it's worth a little bit more discussion because we hear this all the time. It's like they choose not to follow. They just don't want to. They don't care.
They don't have the same risk tolerance that they're cowboys. I mean, we've heard probably a bunch of different explanations as to who these individuals are and why they break the rules. And when you go deeper into actually understanding the reasons why people aren't following the rules, I haven't seen that be a reality yet. Meaning we get to go actually learn from the people who are following these rules and they teach us what's happening. And then we can pass that on to the leadership team. And suddenly it makes a ton of sense as to why that rule wouldn't apply or doesn't make sense or doesn't have operational fidelity in that certain circumstance. Wouldn't logically make sense to the folks who are executing the work because it feels like overkill compared to some of the other things that they're exposed to. There's so much very, very clear logic as to why we need to make some change. But unfortunately, we often get stuck in that fundamental attribution error when it comes to picturing people breaking the rules, right? So we picture someone breaking the rules. We don't have the rest of the context as to why the rule doesn't make sense to the end user in that moment. And we fill it in with beliefs about the person, right? The person doesn't have the same sort of risk tolerance that we have, right? The person just doesn't care, right? The person would violate any rule. The person probably, doesn't follow rules when they're at home, or they
cheats on their taxes, and
they do, right? There's just there's so much narrative, but that narrative isn't based on real information that we've found, right? I'm not trying to say that there's no exception to this. What I'm saying is that we've had an opportunity to do this in a lot of different places. And one of the questions that we ask, which is why I say this is provable in this hop space, is take any cardinal rule, right? Anything that we say, there's really no exception to this. This is how you have to follow it. Or here's the 3 outlined exceptions to this rule. Go grab a group of people that have to follow that rule and create a safe enough space, meaning tell them that we know that there are exceptions to the rule that aren't on this piece of paper, right? So we acknowledge the fact that, hey, probably we can't follow it in every single circumstance. Draw a black line, blue line, like this is the rule is this black line, blue line is reality, and ask people to teach you about the places where the rule doesn't work or doesn't make sense or isn't usable or isn't practical, or they know that it's, there's groups of people that can't follow it this way or don't follow it this way. And you will be shocked as to the number of exceptions that people bring up. And the leadership teams often ask, well, what do you mean by exception? Is it an allowable exception, or is it's an exception that people have created that's not written anywhere, that is happening today, that oftentimes means I mean, sometimes it's better than the rule, right? Honestly, people aren't following the rule, but they've created something better than the rule. And other times it's a lot more exposure to hazards because the rule isn't followable. But without that detail, we have no chance of changing anything. And that's, I think, the crux of the difference in the argument. Meaning, the argument against HOP is that the way to make sure that people follow these rules is by making sure they understand it's non-negotiable, which has the underlying assumption that the rules are all followable and workable and reasonable all the time. That's argument against it. The HOP version of that is the understanding through doing this many times that the way to allow people to follow critical rules is by making sure that the rule works. And that the only way that we can make sure that the rule works and it's actually a real barrier and it makes sense in circumstances is by having adult conversation around it. And in order to have that type of conversation, people can't be afraid of telling you that the rule doesn't work. That's it. It's both the desire to do the same thing. It's one has an underlying belief assumption that the rules are always applicable and they always work. And the reason people aren't following them is because they just violate rules and they don't care. The other has the underlying assumption that rules in variable situations aren't always going to be applicable. And we better be learning really, really quickly where they're not and how they're not, and allowing ourselves to have that conversation. Period. I think where people get stuck is when they have cardinal rules and also stop work authority, meaning that the belief is, well, we have these cardinal rules in place and people are allowed to stop work if they can't follow them. So, Andrea, that fixes all of this problem that you're talking about, right? Because people should just stop work when they can't follow the rule. Once again, that is a strange utopia that I have not seen happen in many places. Now, stop work authority, incredibly important, meaning you never want any employee to believe that they need to continue going down a path that feels dangerous or feels like something terrible is going to happen just because they feel pressured by leadership, right? So that is an amazing space that we should create stop work authority for. That said, the example that I use in terms of like how effective is stop work authority, that goes back to some of the individual psychology and understanding of humanity. The example is in our cars while we're driving on personal business. Let's say we're driving ourselves. We don't even have our family with us. We don't have a lot of, no time pressure. We're just maybe just going home. We have full stop work authority. How bad do road conditions have to get before you stop driving? How bad does the weather have to get? How bad does traffic patterns have to get? And when you look at how humans normally interact with increasingly dramatic changes in things and how hard it is to actually stop what we're doing and the idea of a rational escalation bias, when you look at just the reality of humanity, the idea that in every single sort of normalized circumstance that we can't follow a rule that may or may not feel applicable to the end user at any given moment, that they're just going to stop abruptly work in that moment, once again, is a weird utopia that I have not seen. So yeah, same goal, different means of trying to get to that goal. Now, that doesn't mean if you find someone just thumbing their nose at a rule, flagrantly violating it because, like they say, because you all are stupid, leadership team, and all of these other stupid people following this rule, they're stupid too. Like, there are some people out there that act that way. Fire them. I mean, but that's just not a majority of what's happening. And so this is what we challenge every time we have a leadership team. We challenge, go make enough space to learn the exceptions to your cardinal rule. Find where people are not following them today by making it safe for people to talk about it, by encouraging them to teach you. And then look at your policy that you've had historically. How long has this been going on that we haven't done anything about it as a leadership team? Meaning, how many of these rules have all these types of variations, exceptions that people are dealing with today that no one seemed to know about or be doing anything about? And that's the proof is in the pudding right there. Like, you don't have to go any further in the argument apart from go test it. If your process is working, go test it.
But counter argument.
Yes, I'm ready. Please.
I'm a leader.
Yes.
I spend time on the floor.
Mm.
And I know that every time I'm out there, these rules are followed 100% of the time. So I got to imagine that they are followable. Every time I'm out there.
Or let me add to your counter argument. Or if every leader was as fair, firm, and consistent as I am, then people would always be following it. Because when I'm out on the floor, people are following the rules. And so everyone should be able to do that same thing, right?
So go spend more time on
should.
the floor. That's the solution here.
Yeah. Observe people's behavior, make sure they're following the rules, coach them when they're not, right? Yeah. And that is a very typical argument that we hear. I think what becomes really important is one, the understanding of the Hawthorne effect, right? So the Hawthorne effect is people change their behavior when they're being observed. Really simple example is imagine that your boss's boss is in the car with you, or somebody who is there to audit your driving is sitting in the car with you. You're probably going to adjust a few things about how you drive while somebody's watching you. That's called a compliance mentality, right? And as soon as that is removed, then you go back to your normal, whatever your normal looks like. Now you can make the argument that to fix this problem, then all we have to do is constantly monitor people 100% of the time and force them to do what they're supposed to do.
Oh, and companies are trying.
And people are trying to do, I mean, honestly, they're trying to do that. And I would argue you could, I mean, theoretically you could. The amount of cost associated with that is extraordinarily high. And there are so many unforeseen, or actually foreseeable, but like intangible seeming repercussions to taking that strategy, because that strategy has then created a whole subset of a population of an organization that's treated like a tool that their behavior should be manipulated constantly 24 hours a day to try to align it to a weird utopia of how people should act. And that type of environment creates an inability for us to actually get to a place of excellence. Meaning, if we want to create operational excellence, that type of leadership style doesn't create it. You can't create a bunch of automaton humans that just blindly follow procedure, because the only way that theoretically works is if you don't have any variability at all in any of your processes, which means at that point in time, replace it with robotics. Fascinatingly, organizations that have tried to replace things 100% with robotics really, really, really struggle, because robots can't adjust to variability. So you happen to have a lot of humans trying to present things to a robot in a way that it doesn't have variability in front of them. So we're in this weird space of, we want humans to be adaptive, but only when we say it's okay. And our knowledge of when it's okay is highly truncated by the place that we sit in an organization. And we don't have enough detail to actually know if it works or doesn't work. The antidote to all of this is just information. That's it. Meaning, you don't have to take our word for it. Go learn. Period. Go learn. You can go learn from the folks what happens when somebody hits the floor and they are a senior leader. How is people's behavior changed? Is it different from when all the rest of the work is happening? These are the fundamental realities of how work is getting done. And the answers are right there, as long as people are willing to ask and willing to create an environment where it's okay to tell the truth, right? It's okay to be like, yeah, sure. Yeah. When senior leader so-and-so walks on the floor, of course, actually we stop work. We don't even do anything. We just kind of act busy for a while. And we certainly double check to make sure that we followed all these rules. But honestly, we wouldn't have been able to get the work done at all. So that's kind of why we would stop it when this person's walking around. Those are the stories you hear over and over and over again.
So one more piece of this puzzle is, to quote a good friend, Chuck Watts, don't hear what we're not saying, which is having stop work authority, having cardinal rules is not a bad thing.
No.
You don't need to get rid of them. It is the response to them. And when they are used or not used, or broken or not broken, that needs to change.
Correct. Yeah. And organizations that have gone down this path, they don't get rid of cardinal rules, but they go from mandated punishment as the response to mandated learning. We're gonna force ourselves as an organization to go understand the weakness of this rule and the weakness of where it applies and doesn't apply well. And stop work authority, keep it. We need it. but don't weaponize it, right? So organizations that have gone down this path, you can absolutely talk to stop work authority proactively before bad things have happened. After something has gone wrong, that's not something to bring up, right? We don't weaponize it saying, well, why didn't you stop work? You had stop work authority. That doesn't make a lot of sense in terms of how we're actually using it. And we recognize, it's hard to know when there's no ominous music playing, as Bob Edwards would say. There's no ominous music playing. Something can be easily normalized. It would be hard to know that something's going to go wrong. And so that's not the time to talk reactively about stop work authority. Clear as mud. Yeah.
That's clear. No,
you nailed it.
A little bit clear. Dirty sand. But that's we've done it. We've done 3 of the 4.
Wait, hold on. I got to say one more thing, Matt, because I think this is important.
Yep. Nope. Go ahead.
In the vein of don't hear what we're not saying. When you find exceptions to the rule, fix it. Right? Like we're not suggesting that you just say, okay, where there's like 27 exceptions to this rule and then we leave it broken. What we're saying is when you learn the exceptions to the rule, you work together with the folks that are close to the work in order to come up with alternative means of protection or changing something about the system design or making a different type of defense available or changing how we're doing that work. Like, you have to fix it because it's still the most dangerous, scary part of what we're doing. But unless we know about it, we can't fix it.
Yeah, it's not like you learn about it and then you have a list of exceptions, and then your SVP comes to visit your site and they go, "Is that person not tied off up there?" And you're like, "Yeah, I mean it's a cardinal rule." And then we have this list of 51 exceptions that, in those cases, we say, "No, well that's it. You just gotta deal with it, I guess." That's not what we're saying.
Correct. You just attack the right thing, which is usually not the person. It's usually the circumstances surrounding whatever the rule is or the rule itself.
Can I thank everyone now, or did you want to?
No, I think I'm done. I think I think you could probably do it.
All right. 3 of these counter arguments are in the books. 1 more to go. Thanks for listening, and we'll talk again soon.
Well, that's it.
Yep. Another one in the books. We did it.
If you want to send us any of your thoughts, actually fling us any of your thoughts, you can do so at the website www.hoppodcast.com.
That's HOPPODCAST.com.
It's still such a stupid name.
It's such a stupid name. We look forward to hearing from you. Thanks for listening.
You got into the safety business because you wanted to protect people, but somewhere along the way, the job started controlling your time, your schedule, your priorities, even your income potential. What if the expertise you've built over the years in the field can give you something more? More freedom, more control, more ownership of your future. I'm Sheldon Primus, the author of 7 Steps to Starting a Profitable Safety Consulting Business and the host of the Safety Consultant Podcast, with more than 350 episodes helping safety professionals become consultants and grow their career. Consulting changed my life. In fact, I'm a full-time RVer, and 1 consulting contract paid for my home I live in today. Now, I help safety professionals build their own consulting practice through bi-weekly coaching calls, accountability, and personal guidance. But this program isn't for everyone. Start with the Consultant Readiness Audit at sheldon.coach.
What if everything we thought we knew about safety was just interference? From the host of the Rated R Safety Show and the founder of Safety FM comes the complete signal transmission trilogy, now available in 1 powerful edition. Safety, in my opinion, the book that started the conversation. Safety Mutation, where the boundaries of culture, systems, and belief begin to break. And now, Safety Transmission, the final piece of the signal. For the first time, all 3 books are together in 1 volume. The Signal Transmission Trilogy, Complete Edition. This isn't just about compliance. It's about consciousness. It's about decoding the way we think, lead, and live, inside and outside the system. Whether you've been following the signal since the beginning or you're just now tuning in, this is the version to own. Search Signal Trilogy on Amazon or visit safetyfm.com to get your copy now.